Well, I'm having a baby. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Guitar Gear Trader. I am Steve, your host, and I'm coming at you live from Nashville, Tennessee, as I always do. And today, no, I'm not having a real baby. I'm going to show off something that I got called the Orange Baby. And in this case, it's called the Gain Baby. But before we get into the Gain Baby and all of its gainy goodness, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the like, hit a thumbs up, tell a friend, leave a comment, follow me on Instagram at Guitar Gear Trader. I really appreciate it, and I love giving you guys these videos, and I love your feedback, and I love interacting with all you guys, so please do that. So what is this? This is one of the new orange solid state amp heads called the Orange Baby line. So there are 3 amps that come in this line. This is called the Gain Baby. There, right there, the Gain Baby. There's also something called the Tour Baby, and there's also something called the Dual Baby. We'll get into what all that means in a minute, but essentially this was inspired by an older product that Orange had called the Pedal Baby, which was a preamp that you would, hook up, onto your board or into your setup to be a preamp. This is a full solid state amp that you can use in your rig, bring it to a show, connect it to cabinets, connect it to speakers, and it is a full 100 watt amplifier. Who is this for and why did I buy this? Okay, well, first of all, it's really compact. I like that. It's a lot heavier than it looks. It's probably about the size of, like, I'm gonna date myself, but like a very small DVD player or a small VCR, very small VCR. But it's hefty. Like, it's got some weight to it. It comes in this really cool bag, storage bag, that has a handle on it and a little storage compartment inside that you can put the XLR cable that you're going to use, or the speaker cables that you're going to use, and the power supply that it comes with. And you can sling this on your back and take it with you from one gig to another. They all come with that. So who and why did I get this? Who would buy this and why did I get this? So this is really for a musician. If you're buying this for gigging, you would buy this item because you are doing multiple gigs in a day, or you don't have the means to transport large pieces of equipment. Okay, so if you're a musician playing on Broadway in Nashville and you have 3 different bars that you have to work at from noon to 10 o'clock at night, and you don't want to break down a head and a cabinet or a really heavy combo amp and drag it with you everywhere, this is a great little product for you to use, because all you need to do is bring this to the venue, and you can plug this into the soundboard at the venue if they have one. If they don't, then I guess you can plug this into any loudspeaker that will give you direct access to the amp as well. It's really for a convenience, right? So if you wanted to only carry this and a guitar and maybe your pedal board, that would be a lot easier if this thing was slung around your back in that little carrying case than it would be if you had to carry a combo amp, an AC30 or a Fender, Twin, or even a half stack with a head with a cabinet. Okay, so it's the ease of use for that. So now you all know that I'm a very big fan of Orange amps and Orange products. I have a TH30, I have a Rocker Verb 50, I have a Rocker 15, I have a 212 cabinet that's going to be my stand here in a minute for the Gain Baby, and then I have, here's my newest thing. I don't know if I'm going to keep it. We're going to see how it sounds and see how it is for what I need it for. So what do I need it for? Why did I get it? I'm not necessarily a musician that's gigging 3 or 4 different bars in a night. if I do ever get to gig again, hopefully I do, fingers crossed, it's going to be in, you know, one venue for a couple of hours. So that's not why I bought this. I bought this because of this right here. Okay, that is a direct balanced output in an XLR. An XLR is a cable that's typically used for microphones. It's a low impedance signal that can be plugged in directly to an interface like a Scarlett, or it could be plugged in directly to a soundboard, which is what I'm going to be using it for. So I have a 12-channel soundboard that I used to use for a podcast back in the day. We used to have, you know, 3 or 4 different hosts on the podcast. So I've been trying to utilize this as much as possible so I didn't have to go out and buy extra equipment. This has 6 XLR inputs. This has an XLR output. So what I want to see is if I plug this directly into the XLR output, am I going to get the true sound of this amp instead of going through like a cab simulator or through a cabinet and miking up amplifiers. That's the real reason I bought this. I have children. I do a lot of these videos late at night sometimes, and I can't wake the whole house up by miking up a 50-watt Friedman amp whenever I want to, or even some of my Orange amps. Right? It's going to be too loud. It's going to wake everybody up, and I need to be quiet. So a couple of my amps have direct outs, but they don't have the ability to be noiseless, right? So the sound still comes out of the amps even though my signal is going to the soundboard for me to record. So I can record the sound really well through the XLR output, but the sound is still there. This, I'm assuming I'm not going to have that issue, right? Because this obviously doesn't make sound itself. It doesn't have a speaker, so the signal should go directly into the board, right through my headphones or right into the computer, and we'll see how it sounds, right? Now, I know that might not be the best way to use this thing. You might want to put this through some type of cab simulator in a program. I tried to look through GarageBand because that's what I have on my computer that's available to me, and it didn't seem like I could select just a cabinet. It wanted me to select a head and a cabinet, which would then change the sound of the signal from this going in, which I didn't want to do. I want to give you guys the sound that comes from this particular amp. So we're just going to go directly into the soundboard with that. They make 3 different ones of these. This is the Gain Baby, but they also make something called the Dual Baby. The Dual Baby is a 2-channel amp, just like this one. This is a 2-channel amp, but this is a clean and a dirty channel. The Dual Baby is going to be 2 gain amps, 2 gain channels. One's going to be a little bit heavier than the next. From all that I've heard about the Dual Baby is that the clean on that particular amp is not very good. It's not made for clean. It's made for 2 different gain stages, heavy and heavier. This, I like to have something that has a clean channel as well as a dirty channel, and that's how I buy basically all my amps are 2-channel amps because I don't like to rely too much on foot pedals. But I like to have a clean channel and a dirty channel so that I can play lots of different types of music. I like playing Beatles, I like playing Tom Petty, I also like playing Metallica and 3 Days Grace and stuff like that too. So I like to have the 2 dedicated channels. From what I also hear, the Tour Baby, that probably would be the best one for me. I didn't really look into that one until after I bought this one, but that one has the least amount of gain. Now, when I say least amount of gain, it still has that orange gain stage to it, so it's going to get heavy, but I don't need metal gain. I don't need that level of gain to play like, you know, thrash metal or anything like that. The most I'm ever going to do is play some Metallica, but the majority of where I'm going to sit is in that AC/DC kind of gain range, which surprisingly is not very much. So that probably would have been the best one for me, but we got this one today. We're going to test it out. We're going to see if I'm going to keep it or not. You tell me what you think about it and how you like it, and then we're going to set this up and we'll play some examples for you through it, and you let me know. All right, let's do it. Okay, so let's take a look at the Orange Gain Baby 100. The 100 means it's a 100-watt amp. Here we have our power. That's where you would plug in your plug there. We have 2 speaker outputs, which give you 1 8-ohm, 1 16-ohm, and 2 by 16-ohm options. So you can hook these up to basically any cabinet that you, any external cabinet that you buy, 1x12 or 2x12 is going to be able to handle this particular head without any issue. You have your balanced XLR output with a ground and lift switch there. You have a dedicated section here for 2 foot switches. Now I'm not sure if Orange makes a foot switch with 2 pedals on it that's like a stereo cable. If they do, then that means you can put both stereo ins into there, and you can control both options on the foot switch. One option is for a volume boost, so you can actually use one of the foot switches on the two switch pedal to control a knob on the front for a for an extra volume boost. So you can actually use that as a boost, so you won't even need a boost pedal if you just wanted to increase your volume. It's not going to increase your gain or anything like that, but it's going to increase your volume. And then you have the channel selector, right? So you can switch between the clean and the dirty channel with that foot switch. I have an Orange foot switch, but it only has one switch on it. So I would have to plug it into either one of these, and I can control either one. But I'm assuming if you had a stereo switch, that you could put it into both. And if you had 2 buttons, if you had a 2-button foot switch, you can control either one of those. I know, like, there's some Marshall pedals that I have, or some Vox pedals that I have, that has a channel switcher pedal switch and has a reverb or tremolo switch. Fender amps have that as well. Then over here you have your effects loop. You have your send and return and your effects loop, which is always going to be handy. If we take a look at the front of the amp, over here we have our on and off switch. There's no standby switch because it's not tubes, so we don't have to have a standby switch. We have our dirty and our clean selection. We have our power light, and then we have our dirty channel here in the white, which is going to have a gain knob. It's going to have your volume knob. This is the foot switch volume knob. Okay, this only gets engaged if you actually have a foot switch plugged into that back foot switch input in the back. If you don't have anything plugged into that foot switch input in the back, this doesn't do anything. That is disengaged. You have the presence knob, which I guess is more or less like a treble boost. Underneath you have your EQ, your bass, your middle, and your treble. And then you have a little toggle switch for tight or not tight, I guess. It doesn't give you an option for the bottom. I guess that's just off and tight. Okay. And you're gonna see I kind of like it when it's on. And then over here you have your clean channel. You have your volume here. You have your bass and treble. There's no middle there. There's no mids here. Okay, you have your bass and treble. And then you have a compressor, a built-in compressor, which is really, really cool. My board has a compressor on it, and I'm going to turn the compressor off on the board so that we can hear the compressor on the actual amp. Okay, so let's get this hooked up and let's hear what it sounds like. Okay, so I'm going to be playing through my 1971 Gibson Les Paul Custom in black. Love this guitar. It's got no frets on it, so if you hear any little buzzing or anything, it's probably because I have 0 frets on this guitar. I got to get it. I'm really contemplating getting it refretted, but I don't want to damage the value of it if that does damage the value of it. But also I want to play it. I want to play it as much as I can because I love this thing. It's absolutely gorgeous. I had a whole episode on this guitar if you want to see it. But again, playing through the 71 Gibson Les Paul directly into the Orange Gain Baby, which is XLR'd directly into my soundboard. Okay, so we're going to start on the clean channel. I have the compressor down. I have the bass and treble at noon, and I have the volume extremely, extremely low. I'm going to mute my microphones, and I'm just going to be messing with the controls there so you can see what's going on. So that's the clean channel. I really like it. It gets really snappy when I have it at 12 o'clock with the treble and the bass and the compressor up quite a bit. It gives you that really cool little spanky sound. But if we're being honest, that's not why we are. That's not why we're buying this, right? We're buying it for the gain channel. So let's check that one out. Okay, so we are going to start with the gain as low as I can get it, the volume at around 9 o'clock, bass treble middle around noon, foot switch doesn't matter because we're not built into it, and presence is basically at 0. And we'll start from there. I'm going to put the tight switch down so that you hear it like that, and then I'll flip the tight switch up as we go along. See how much nicer that tight switch makes everything? It sounds so screechy when that tight switch is down or in the off position, and it sounds so like fuzzy, and that might be a sound that you want, but that's not. I want it a little bit more warm and a little bit more rich, so I tend to keep that tight switch in the engaged position. You can see there's plenty of gain, a lot more gain than I need. I really like the gain around, I want to say maybe, what is that? What would that be? Around 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock-ish. That's where I like the gain on this amp. I love living in that. Everything kind of, EQ's kind of all kind of dimed at 12, not dimed, but all the way up at 12. Maybe my bass and treble a little higher than my mids, but I love the gain right there at that right before noon area. So I don't know if I'm going to keep this or if I'm going to maybe trade it in for the Tour Baby. The Tour Baby is supposed to have a lot less gain. Now, it's still going to be gain for an orange. It's just not going to be as much gain as this has. This has tons of it, right? And it was really cool. Before, when I was playing the Metallica riffs, I had the gain all the way up and I had the mids cut out. Let's see how that sounds if I put the gains all the way up, but I keep the mids around the middle. Well, let's go 3/4 first. Let's go about 3/4. We've heard noon. There's noon. Here's 3/4. Here's full on. It's a lot. There's a lot of gain there. Let's take it, let's see what it sounds like without the tight switch on. So go back to about 10 o'clock where I like it with the tight switch on. It almost seems like once you get it to a certain gain level, that tight switch doesn't really do much, because when I was flicking it around there with the gain all the way up, it didn't sound like there was much of a difference, but there's definitely a difference when you're playing it at this level. In my headphones I hear it. Maybe you don't hear it much on the computer or on the video, but in my headphones I definitely hear a difference there. But this is definitely a cool little amp. For sure. Getting a little out of tune now, but so I'll probably cut that out. But it's a really cool amp. It's very convenient in the fact that I don't have to mic up a cabinet. I don't have to turn on a very loud amp late at night. I can just plug this directly into my board and get some really cool rock tones out of it. If I needed to, I can get some, you know, metal tones. I don't know if metal guys out there are going to necessarily agree that this is heavy enough for them. My only complaint about this is, and it's not the fault of the amp, it's essentially that there's too much gain for me. And that's not the amp's fault. That's my fault, because I didn't necessarily buy the correct baby, right? I could have bought the Tour baby, but I didn't research that good enough before I bought this. And the other thing I don't necessarily like about this is that it kind of sounds solid state to me. I'm a very, very big fan of tube amps, and this just sounds solid state, in my opinion. For this application, I think it's absolutely fine, but I don't think I would ever take this out and gig with it, because it just sounds a little bit too digital for me. And it is. It's a solid state amp, and it's going to sound like a solid state amp. But and maybe it's just in my head. Who knows, right? There are lots of people that feel that tubes are better, and I'm one of them. I'll tell you this, the room isn't any hotter since I put this thing on. And when you're playing a tube amp, if you're sitting next to a tube amp like this, you're going to start sweating after a little while because the heat that comes off of those tubes is pretty high. So, and maybe that's just a mental game that the amps play with me, but I really love tube amps, and I love how it just sounds warmer, and this just sounds a lot more tighter and not, I don't want to say not real or fake, because it's obviously an amp, but you just know it's not from the tubes being pushed hard, right? But it sounds great, right? You can't deny it. It sounds a lot better than any older. I haven't played newer multi-effects things. I haven't played Kempers, and I haven't played those things. But I've played, like, Zoom pedals and Vox multi-effects pedals and Boss multi-effects units with, the expression pedals on them and stuff like that. And I gotta be honest, this sounds way, way better than those things. And again, I know the Kempers and all those fancy pedal boards that they have now, they probably sound just as good as this. I can't say they don't, because I've never played one, so I don't want to give my opinion on that. But this sounds way better than those things. So earlier in the channel, before today, I've been playing through a very old Zoom G7 pedal board, like effects pedal board that has 300 built-in presets and an expression pedal and stuff. It's probably 15-20 years old at this point, and there's too much going on in those things. There's too much, all the presets are really strange and weird and flangey and chorusy and tremoly and all this stuff. I just want something simple. So for what I need, this is doing the trick. And if you're a gigging musician that doesn't want to carry amps all over the place, this is probably going to work for you as well. And it sounds great. Don't get me wrong, it sounds great, but in the back of my head, and if you don't care about tube amps, if you are a younger generation person who thinks that solid state and amp modelers sound awesome to begin with, then you're going to love this. This is absolutely fabulous for you. I much prefer to plug into my Rock Reverb 50 and crank it a little bit and just feel the air being moved around me and the heat of the tubes and just the richness of the tone. But this, out of 10, I give this an 8 for sure. If not higher, because of how easy it is to set it up. I literally just plugged an XLR into it in the back directly to my soundboard, and I'm playing you guys some music. So anytime I want to review a guitar or review a pedal or something, I can do it noiselessly at 2 in the morning in my house without waking up my family. So I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I love Orange, I love the company, I love the amps and the products they make, and this is no different. So we'll see if I keep it. I might exchange it for a PRS MT15 tube head, the Mark Tremonti signature tube head. It's a 15-watt little guy. We'll see. We'll see if I do that. But I hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed the review. Hopefully it helped you decide whether this might be something for you or not. Again, this isn't a paid video. This is just something that I thought I could use and wanted to share my thoughts with you guys. So do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, follow me on Instagram at Guitar Gear Trader. And again, thanks again for watching, and I appreciate it. Leave a comment, tell your friends about the show, and until next time, peace out. Have a great night.